He just seemed so cold and probably hurt, but it's hard to acknowledge the hurt because he seems so cold and nasty. Hello, 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 and welcome back. I'm Shakia, and in this episode, we are going to talk about Sister Wives Season 19, Episode 6. Let's get into it. At this point, we know that Mary and Cody's marriage has been terminated. She went to the church and they call it, termination. Essentially, they got a divorce. And Cody says, look, and this was, I believe, in a previous episode, but Cody says he has been divorced from Mary for a long time at this point. He didn't need the church to tell him anything because he was already done with their marriage. But anyway, we fast forward to this episode, episode 6. It opens at Cody and Robin's house, but of course, we don't get to go inside. So from the outside, we know that they're celebrating Christmas, and Cody says this is the first time he's celebrating Christmas with just one wife. Robin says this isn't her first time celebrating Christmas without all of the wives, but it is her first time celebrating Christmas without Mary. Mary spent Christmas with some of her friends. Also, if you see me looking down, it's because I am looking at my notes. Anyway, Mary said that she spent Christmas with two of her good friends, Lisa and Amber, because she refused to spend Christmas with Robin and Cody. She said, look, at this point, I would rather be somewhere where people want me. She would rather be somewhere where people want her. Yes, Mary, finally, I'm glad you recognized and you finally see what so many of us have witnessed over the years. Okay. Janelle, she's spending Christmas in North Carolina, I believe, with Maddie and the kids. And Christine is spending Christmas with her kids. After all the Christmas scenes are shown and they talk about the way that they're celebrating now versus before, we see Aspen, and Aspen starts to share a little bit about Christine and her dating life. Aspen said she's really excited for her mom to start dating. She didn't really date before Cody. She said she met him. I'm paraphrasing just a little bit. She met him, she liked him, she married him. And so this is her first experience truly dating. And she says, again, she's happy for her mom. Christine said she's been going on dates for about 6 months at the time of filming. She's been going on different dates for about 6 months with different guys. She said one guy was really religious and it didn't go further after she told him she was a polygamist. That's interesting. I don't think she still identifies as a polygamist, but obviously for the last 30 something years, probably even longer, I can't remember whether or not she was raised in polygamy. I think she was. But I don't think she still considers herself to be a polygamist, or does she? Because at this point, I don't think she's going to go back to plural marriage. She said it didn't work for her. I think we all kind of saw that watching the seasons, as they progressed, that it was something that there was an element of it that didn't align for some reason, for different reasons, not for some reason, but for different reasons. So anyway, she told the guy that she was a polygamist. Didn't go further than that. And then she said another guy was aware of polygamy, but also it didn't go further than, I think, the second date. She said, most of the guys that she dated, it was just one date. And then later on in the episode, we find out she had dated about 8 guys in a span of 6 months. And she had went on second dates with 2 of them, one being David, who we are officially introduced to later on in the episode. And obviously now we know in real time that she and David are married. But anyway, Christine was out here living her single life, okay? And she was enjoying herself. And she said that's what she wanted. She wanted that experience, but she also wanted to find a partner. And eventually she hired a matchmaker. Janelle said that if she were to meet somebody, it has to be organic. She says, look, those apps are not for me. Girl, I feel you, because they're not for me either. So she says it has to be organic, but they all talk about their version of dating and also give a little bit of their perspective or thoughts on Christine dating. And it sounds like everybody's happy for Christine for the most part. I mean, I don't know if Cody is too happy for Christine, but we'll get there. Christine lets us know that David is her boyfriend, but I'm jumping ahead. Before we get to that scene, she says that she was again nervous to start dating, so she hired the matchmaker and she describes who she wants. She said she wanted someone who was bald, had tattoos, and drove a motorcycle. She said because it sounded sexy. I thought it sounded sexy. And then, of course, we know she meets David, who is bald. And she says that David is her boyfriend. She met him online. I'm kind of repeating what I just said a little bit ago. She met him online and he's everything that she's been looking for. So I guess he is bald, he has tattoos, and he drives a motorcycle. She says, look, I'm 50 and I know what I'm looking for. Okay, all right. There was a discussion with Christine and her kids on whether or not David is a boomer. He's a few years older than Christine, and Christine is like, I'm not a boomer. He's not a boomer, but he is a boomer. And so they were just, talking about that. And then Mary said, look, I don't know about any of that, but the 80s were my jam. And I can see that. That makes a lot of sense. And Cody gives his perspective about being Gen X. And so there's like light conversations during their interview scenes about these age cohorts. Then we fast forward, Christine and David. Oh, wait. So let me back up a little bit. So Isabel, she is one of Christine's daughters, she is taking a little longer to get used to the idea of her mom dating. She said she's used to her mom being married to her dad. That's all she knows. And so for her, things are moving a bit too fast. Then, because I think at this point, maybe Christine told them that she and David had exchanged I love yous. I can't remember just yet where that fell in the conversation. But I do know McKelty chimed in. McKelty, who is married to Tony and just had the twins. McKelty chimed in and said she proposed to Tony before 2 months. Isabel said, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about mom. Like, pump your brakes. I get it, but I'm talking about mom and what it feels, and I'm adding here now, but what it feels like to now watch her mom date somebody. That can absolutely take a lot of getting used to. So Cody says, look, if Christine is wanting to date, she should have begun dating once she said she was divorced. First of all, Cody, some of what he's saying is definitely different, or maybe the way he's saying it is different from last season. Because remember, last season, he was so torn up and he was so broken up about the fact that Christine wanted to divorce him. And what would the divorce even look like? And what does this mean? How do you just go, you're divorced? And now he's saying, oh, well, she should have started dating as soon as she said she was divorced. I don't know. What do you think about that? Anyway, so again, the kids... The kids, I'm saying kids, we know that they're older, but the kids and Christine continue to discuss her and David's relationship. And then they start talking about the PDA that Christine has with David and how it's different from her and Cody. And Cody said, because then we see him in his interview scene. Again, I'm looking down because I'm just looking over my notes. Cody says that that PDA, he likes PDA now. He loves PDA now. But Robin is so shy. And he says before it felt awkward displaying, right? It felt awkward being affectionate or PDA because he had 4 wives. And so it felt awkward for him. I try to give the benefit of the doubt as much as I can. I try to not be super judgmental when I watch these shows. But if I can just be honest, between me and you, I am struggling with Cody. I'm struggling with Cody, and that's one of the reasons why I'm reading from my notes so I won't go off on too many tangents about how I really feel about him, especially watching this episode in particular. I've been struggling with Cody all season. I know I haven't done the recaps on the show, but I have been watching. I just want to add that I did enjoy watching the kids talk to Christine about her new relationship with David and about dating in general. They seem to be supportive of her for the most part, but also wanting, to express their not concern, but just their thoughts, their opinions. And it was an open conversation. And it seemed that, they were all being respectful and respected in that conversation, which I thought was really great. And I thought that was great to see, considering how a lot of things played out, especially with Christine last season, the whole knife to the kidneys that Cody said, that whole rant he went on. And so I'm wondering now if Christine's kids feel even more protective over her. Just a thought. By the way, Peyton said that he was withholding, that he was holding back from judging David until he actually met him himself. Then we fast forward and we see Janelle is talking with Maddie and Maddie's husband in North Carolina. And they still want to buy property. They saw that beautiful piece of land in Montana. They're talking about that property. They're talking about just wanting to really have something, own something, and for Janelle to really put down roots. She's finally ready to do that. She said, reflecting on what it is she wants after being in her apartment. And she's like, I want land and I want to really, she wants to settle. That's what she said. She wants to settle, like settle down, not settle, because we're not doing that, but she wants to finally feel settled in a place. But anyway, they're talking about the property, and she said, look, she can't really do anything until the land in Flagstaff is situated. Of course, listen, if you've been watching the show, you know about Flagstaff. Oh, I'm sorry, you know about Coyote Pass, okay? We have heard so much about Coyote Pass. We know that they were all supposed to get plots of land at Coyote Pass, but of course, these marriages have since dissolved, all except for the one he has with Robin. And so Janelle said all of her money, her retirement, her savings, all of her money is tied up in this property. She said she reached out to Cody because she wants him to just buy her out. Then she says to Maddie, your dad goes at his own pace. He goes very slow. He doesn't act on anything until things are all falling apart, and she's ready to just be done with it. And she says that she has the money to pay for her part, but he doesn't have the money to pay for his part. And I guess the deal that they have, everything is in one essentially. So it's difficult for her to just walk away. And again, her money is tied up in this deal. So so it would be difficult or challenging for her to buy land with Maddie and Maddie's husband, whose name I am blanking on right now. But it would be difficult to buy land with them because her money is tied up in Coyote Pass. So then we see the scene where Cody goes over to Mary's house because he says they need to talk about their divorce. There are things that he wants to discuss. He said his whole marriage with Mary, she said one thing and did another. And he's like, I don't know where I stand. I never know where she stood. I was just confused. Okay, sir. So I'm going to just continue the conversation between Cody and Mary and not jump and go in order of how it was filmed in the episode. So still at Mary's house, Mary says, look, once she understood that Cody was not going to work on things with her, this is what she was saying, that she decided she was going to move. So during Cody's interview scene, he shouts to the camera and he says, don't blame me for not loving you. I was doing my duty. Ugh. Blame yourself if I don't love you, okay? When I'm in love with a woman, that's her fault. So what happens if I'm not in love with a woman? Is that just my fault? Whoa. Whoa. Cody, are you freaking kidding me? I'm listening to him say that, I was so disgusted Talking about it was my duty. Sir, this is not the 1700s, duty and obligation. Absolutely not. Yes, you all had a child together. You could have absolutely still been a father, taking care of your child. That does not mean that you needed to stay married to Mary if you did not love her. It was your duty. And this is, we're going to stop here just for a second. Sometimes people, women, want to be in relationships so badly that they will settle for somebody who does not truly love them, but feels that they have to be with them out of obligation. I don't want anybody to be with me because they feel like it is their duty, because they feel like they are obligated. So you are obligated to love, to be with me, but not love me. And that shows. Because listen, again, if you've been watching this show from the beginning, we have seen the periods of just ups and downs with these couples, but specifically between Mary and Cody. So it was your duty to stay with her, but did you treat her well? And I'm not a big fan of Mary. Nonetheless, I don't think she deserved to be treated. Nonetheless, she did not deserve to be treated the way that she was treated. It was your duty, sir. No, it was your duty to respect yourself and respect her enough to say, hey, this is not what I want. This is not what's working. This is not working. But anyway, I'll go back to my notes. So Mary said, look, I'm not placing blame. She just wanted him to acknowledge the fact that he said he wasn't interested in working on their relationship. And that upsets Cody. You can tell he's upset by it. Mary says she wasn't placing blame, that she just wanted him to acknowledge the fact that he said he wasn't interested in working on their relationship. And Cody said, you want me to own it that much? Mary said, I'm not saying anything about owning it. He said, look, I said I could fake through it. Mary said, I'm not interested in faking it. Cody said, that's not me saying I can't work on it. What? If this is not an example of gaslighting, are you kidding me? He said he could fake through it. He could fake through the marriage, but that doesn't mean he's not interested in working on it. Sir, you rejected this woman and rejected this woman and rejected this woman. And because all she's asking from you is to be accountable for your part, you can't do that. So you turn all the table back onto her. Sir. Oh, I'm telling you, this is why I really haven't done episodes, because Cody has been irking me. Cody said, we agreed mutually about the termination of their marriage, that it wasn't going to progress. Mary said, you're right. We did. But they both still had a part to play. So if Mary is essentially saying, if I'm owning my part and I'm taking accountability for my role in the breakdown of the marriage, can you just please own your part and take accountability for your role in the breakdown of the marriage? Homeboy is not doing it. He says all the stuff except for the things that she wanted to hear and what we would expect him to hear if he was actually owning up to his stuff. So he's struggling to acknowledge what his role was in the breakdown of their marriage. So again, Mary got a release from the marriage. It was on the account of abandonment, and that really infuriates Cody. He says, I don't agree with that. She wasn't abandoned, sir. If you said that you could agree to fake through a marriage, tell me it's not abandonment. Or what's the saying? Tell me it's abandonment without telling me it's abandonment. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm trying to say. Because if you are able to fake through it, that means you're not really showing up. You're not really being present. You're not really being the partner that you are to Robin, and that I imagine Mary would want you to be to her. He says he didn't abandon her. I mean, he kind of did, though, especially like emotionally and stuff. Listen, again, watching the show, hearing them, especially over the last few seasons, we know that this relationship lasted for way longer than it should have. And because of their duty to one another, listen, I think they both hurt each other in the process. And then in turn, each of them were probably hurt even more by staying together. Do not be with somebody because you feel obligated. That's a lot of sacrifice, and not sacrifice in a way that could be even deemed as healthy. That's a lot of sacrifice. And if you genuinely don't want to be with somebody, you don't love them, you're not in love with them, but you are still with them, then you're not even honoring your own self respect. And I don't like, and then don't turn it around and make it seem as if it is just all Mary's fault. Don't do that, sir. Anyway, Cody said he felt compelled to stick it out with Mary, even though the relationship was terrible. That's what he said. Sir, there's no honor in that. But anyway, he then goes on to say how he knows he didn't want to be in a relationship with Mary. He knows he didn't want to be in a relationship with Janelle. And that Christine did him a favor by leaving. Oh, what a words that I'm not going to say out loud, but that's what he is. Oh, my heavens. Anyway, so Mary says that it's sad for her that their relationship, because before, okay, she says it's sad for her that their relationship was so confusing, because there's a moment where he says, you know, yeah, it's been confusing for me. Year one, year two. Mary said it's sad that their relationship was so confusing. And then she says after the first year, after the second year, after the third year. And then Cody goes on to say, I wish I wouldn't have ever married her. Peep this. This is what Cody says during his interview scene about a woman that he was with for like 30 years. He says, I wish I wouldn't have ever married her. I married a woman that I didn't love so much that I just wanted to serve her. But whatever I did was just not good enough. He said he should have gotten out of the relationship 25 years ago. And he goes, you know, then he starts talking about not knowing that he's in an unhealthy relationship or that he's in a bad marriage. Ooh, good God. So he says the relationship, he says that it was really bad, the relationship between him and Mary, but he never realized it because but then when he noticed things were a bit better with Janelle and a bit better with Christine, and then of course with Robin, those relationships were just a bit better. But then with Robin, I guess he felt like he got it right because he says those other relationships were terrible. So the relationship with Janelle and the relationship with Christine, they were a bit better than his relationship with Mary, but he deems them all as terrible. What, sir? And I'm just disgusted by you, because if you genuinely didn't love these women, why would you marry them? And you created children with them. You spent decades with them, and this is how you speak about them. And this is how you speak about your marriage to them? You mean to tell me you didn't love them? And now with Janelle, I beg to differ. I think he and Janelle found a groove. And I think it's maybe early on, especially, he loved, out of the first three wives, he loved Janelle. I think they did. They had a unique bond. Now, it may not be the way that he loves Robin, but I do think he genuinely did love Janelle to the best of his ability. What do you think? Ooh, this guy is just so toxic. Janelle says during her interview scene, she says, you know, it is hard to hear some of the things that he's saying because he's not the guy that they were married to. Mary said it was always her choice to stay. It was always her choice to stay because had she wanted to leave sooner, she would have. And Cody says he didn't divorce Mary because leadership wouldn't allow him to. Leadership wouldn't allow him to then marry again, because if he was getting rid of he used the word discarded. If he were to discard all of his wives, then leadership would look at him as if he were a problem. Really? And then he wouldn't be allowed to marry again. And he used the word discarded. If I were to discard them, damn. He just seemed so cold and probably hurt, but it's hard to acknowledge the hurt because he seems so cold and nasty. Ugh. Jumping ahead, he says that he and Mary had different timestamps on when they each weren't happy with each other in the marriage. Cody says, because Cody's going to say something, Cody says, it's not the divorce that sucks. It's marrying the wrong person. Mary says it sucks marrying the wrong person and not having the decency to tell her until 30 something years later. He said he was in terrible marriages and he didn't know he was in terrible marriages until he was in the right one. He said because the people he knew were also in terrible marriages. They were all sharing about the same types of arguments. So he didn't recognize, hey, something is off here. He says, you just think it's normal, which is true. We learn how to function in our dysfunction. It is a means of protection. It is to help you to survive your circumstance, not thrive it, but to survive your circumstance. So the brain will figure out a ways to sometimes rationalize what we know is not okay. So yeah, it does. It becomes your normal. But if you're truly feeling like, yo, something is off, we have to honor that. And he didn't do it. It took him 30 something years to be like, yo, I don't even like you. I can't love you. I don't even like you. He's still not taking accountability. It's just more gaslighting, placing fault and blame with other people. But I don't hear him talking about his fault. I don't hear him talking about his role in the breakdown of these marriages. 32 years later, and now you say, I should not have married you. 32. Could you imagine spending 3+ decades of your life with somebody? And the way they speak about you is, had I discarded this wife, I would not have been able to marry another. That's what you're reduced to. That's what your relationship is reduced to. Nope. Okay, so now we're going to jump in the episode back to Christine. She's talking about being soulmates with David. And at this point in the show, she and David have only known each other for a month. She talked about being soulmates with David, which also, and I believe in that part of that conversation during her interview scene, she said she knew that Cody and Robin were soulmates. She knew that Cody and Robin were soulmates. She thought it then and she thinks it now. And she's like, how can you have a soulmate, right? You find your soulmate and you're polygamous. So then what happens to the other relationships? You can't fully be in those relationships if you found your soulmate. I mean, my question would be, how can you fully be in each relationship when you have 4 of them at the same time? That's a lot of work. And I don't know, the way my attention span is set up, I don't think I could do that. She says that she recognized recently, so again, at the time that the episode was filmed, she recognized recently what it felt like to be with your soulmate. And so she's referencing David. Again, they've known each other at this point for about a month. They are soulmates. They've exchanged I love yous. My concern is she repeating the same pattern? Again, she liked Cody. She saw Cody. She liked Cody. She married Cody. She sees David. She likes David. She marries David. Are you repeating the same pattern? Is this somebody that you genuinely love? Did you give it enough time? But she says she's older. She knows what she wants. And David meets he has the qualities and characteristics of a person that she wants to spend the rest of her life with. So in her mind, she's like, maybe we are going a little faster, but when you know, you know. I'm paraphrasing. But she said, listen, even if her kids had an issue, she would listen, but she is not giving David up. Okay? She says, when you know, she's in love with this man. And again, now present day, we know that they did get married. I just hope she's not repeating certain patterns in the sense of her overlooking things. In the beginning, yes, it feels good. It's, like shiny object syndrome. It feels great in the beginning. Ooh, this new thing. I want this new thing. I got an attachment to this new thing. Or in this case, person. Did you get all the information you needed to get before actually entering into another marriage? Just a thought. Back to Cody and Mary before we wrap up this episode. At some point during the conversation, Cody says, I don't know where we go from here. And Mary says, we're exes. You don't need to worry about me. She does say, I just wish you knew how amazing of a person I really am. Ugh, that hurts. I get that. I get that. But remember, we don't have to prove ourselves to anybody. And we get to show how amazing we are. And if it didn't work and we weren't able to show who we truly are in that particular relationship dynamic, there's usually a reason for that. And so my hope is that Mary takes her whole self, and all the lessons that she's learned when she's ready to have a new relationship. She is not seeking like validation, see me, know that I'm wonderful, because then that can absolutely lead to another unhealthy relationship dynamic. Cody says that and I think I may have said this before, but that in the future he hopes that she'll call him and share something funny.
Where we are now is I actually like you. Yeah, God's be praised. Well, I didn't for 6 years.
At all. I was trying to be...
I think it was more than that.
Oh, dear Cody. Okay, so that essentially wraps up episode 6. Let me know what you thought about this episode and perhaps your thoughts on the season thus far. I have a lot of thoughts. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you. I'm so glad you're here. And I hope you come back for the next one. But until then, bye for now.